For those that know me and how important music is in my life, I don't know. I'm chasing new music and little drum and bass. I've been missing that in my life. And so, without input, I'm kind of scraping ideas and looking for new songs. And Die Young is one I came across. Haunting. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm complicating things here because we're not talking real estate. And we're not just coming here to party and dance on our chairs. And we're going to be talking about more Trump effect. So, I don't want to bore you with footage of Sosua Beach, but what else am I going to put in the background? And since I'm an old radio guy, this is kind of like how we come in from commercial, with beats. But I'm not sure I need them in the background for what I'm going to talk about. Maybe it's just distracting. Anyway. Today is a beautiful Thursday morning. I usually have a Christian men's group, 7:30 on Thursday mornings. It's live at my church back home, but I Zoom in, and there's a Zoom option for guys that, can't make it or don't want to go to the church. You can kind of listen in and participate on Zoom. So we take a summer break, and I keep it going with my boy George. I got lots of boy Georges down here. My other boy George is back in Canada. George the Greek, we call him. Big George. His nationality's really got little to do with it. Well, lots to do with it, but whatever. But, so it is 9:43 on July 17th. It's a Thursday morning. And I don't normally get up in the morning and start putting on drum and bass or techno or house or any kind of music for that matter, but maybe it brings you some joy. Either way. This is, I guess, part 3 of the Trump effect. And I will put the link in the show description for when this is uploaded. My SEO guy is down, lost his auntie, his mother's sister passed over the last couple days, so prayers for you, Hassan, and your family. I just went through it. Was my brother in March. It's brutal, man. Brutal. So, my heart goes out to you, bro, but this should be uploaded in the next couple days. As my boy's taking a little bit of time off. I told him to take his time. But I will put the link in the show description. What came from DR1, I think, is my source for a lot of my news. I'm on their mailing list, so we're talking about, well, I'll tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about tariff policies and how it might affect tourism and trade and whatnot. So the new U.S. tariff policies, particularly the 10% tariff on imports from the Dominican Republic effective August 1st, 2025, are poised to significantly impact the Dominican economy, its national identity, and the motivations of Canadian and American snowbirds considering relocation to the country. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the impact on the Dominican economy. Yeah, no, this isn't distracting at all. The Dominican Republic's economy is highly dependent on its trade relationship with the United States, which accounts for 53.5% of its exports, valued at $6.9 billion in 2024, and the imposition of a 10% tariff on Dominican exports, particularly those from free zones. Free zones are or Dominican zones that operate free of tax and export tariffs and stuff like that, I guess, which contributed $8.6 billion to the U.S. and $12.9 billion in total exports to the U.S. in 2024. So threatens to disrupt this critical economic lifeline. Free zones are responsible for 66% of the country's exports, rely heavily on labor-intensive industries like medical and surgical instruments. The tariff could increase costs for U.S. customers, potentially reducing demand for these goods and impacting Dominican export revenues. Economist Alberto Alberto Velos described this as a potential breaking point for the economy, given the reliance on these exports. The broader global trade environment adds further complexity since April 2nd, 2025, dubbed Liberation Day, quote unquote, by the U.S. President Donald Trump. The global goods market has faced uncertainty due to, quote, uncontrollable reciprocal, unquote, tariffs with countries like China at 54%, Canada at 35%, Mexico at 30%, and the EU at 30%, facing significantly higher tariffs than the Dominican Republic. Oh, didn't I take my picture off? So you're still looking at my sweaty forehead? That's not good. There you go. Better? While the 10% tariff on Dominican Republic is relatively low, it still violates the principles of the Dominican Republic, Central America, United States Free Trade Agreement, the CAFTA-DR, which has facilitated duty-free trade since 2004. This violation could lead to increased logistical costs, custom delays, and supply chain disruptions, as highlighted by Customs Advisor Eduardo Rodriguez. Economist Luis Vargas painted a concerning picture of the Dominican Republic. As you watch another ad on my channel, which is, if I'm prepared, I actually turn the ads off before I come out here. So you don't have to see them? Usually I have a fan rolling. It doesn't completely, not even 10 o'clock here. It's probably 85, 86 degrees already, maybe more. It's crazy. It's summertime. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm not hot. I'm not hot. I'm not sweaty. It's not uncomfortable. Blah 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 blah. Ah blah 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 blah. Ah blah 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 blah. Ready for it? Switch. Anyway, maybe this might not. I'm not broadcasting. Maybe that's for a good reason, but this is usually how my live shows go. And maybe I won't even upload this one, or maybe I'll upload it and not release it. Maybe too many things at one time, especially for early in the morning, like it is here for 10 o'clock in the morning. This is not a dance party. So a concerning picture for Dominican's economy trajectory, noting a decline in real GDP growth from 2.6 in 2019 to projected 1.7 by the end of 2025, with a negative 0.2% growth in the first quarter of 2025. The merchandise trade deficit is expected to rise to 4.1. Oh, there I am again. Hi. of nominal GDP, and the fiscal deficit is projected to increase from 4.6% to 6.5%, pushing public debt to 101.6% of GDP. These figures suggest a strained economic environment exacerbated by global trade tensions and the new U.S. tariffs. The potential for a U.S. recession as warned by analysts, could further reduce demand for Dominican exports and remittances from the Dominican Diaspora. That's a new word for me. I had to look it up. And I think it was described to me as the dispersion of Jews around the globe. But in this case, I think they're talking about Dominican immigrants to the United States of America, actually funneling a great deal of cash back to the state, to their home state, Dominican Republic, from their U.S. Incomes. So when you talk about the income of a country, it also includes natives living abroad sending their money home. However, there are potential opportunities. The Dominican Republic's free zones could benefit from the relocation of U.S. companies seeking to avoid higher tariffs on goods from Mexico, 25%, and China, 34%, plus 20% fentanyl-related tariff. Economist Jamie Aristi Escuder noted that increased import costs from Mexico and China could prompt American companies to shift manufacturing to the Dominican Republic, boosting its free trade zones. Additionally, Rodriguez emphasized the country's strengths, including its status as Latin America's fastest growing economy, projected GDP growth of 3.5% in 2025 and 4.5% in 2026. Strategic location, geographically, competitive labor force, and a robust logistics infrastructure, including 24-hour customs clearance and high maritime and air connectivity. These factors could mitigate some of the tariffs' negative impacts if the Dominican Republic capitalizes on nearshoring trends. So not all bad news for the Dominican Republic. Actually, they noted significant opportunities. The impact on Dominican identity, which is mentioned in the article that I will post in the comments or description of this video. The Dominican Republic's national identity is deeply tied to its economic resilience. Sorry about the ads. What are we looking at here? 4 beaches. We're still in Sosua, though. These are the 4 beaches of beautiful Sosua. This is Playa Sosua, Sosua Beach. Chill like that. I should give you a list of the music that's in here too as well, but I probably won't. The Dominican Republic's national identity is deeply tied to its economic resilience, cultural vibrancy, and historical adaptability. Luis Vargas emphasized that the reindustrialization and the re-agriculturalization must be rooted in technological innovation, national identity, and the creation of a democratic, republican, and solidary society. That's a quote from Vargas. That it must be rooted in, quote, technological innovation, national identity, and the creation of a democratic, republican, and solidary society. Now, does that sound like political speak? A little bit. I gotta keep these videos short when it's summer. It's toasty up in here. So to dig a little bit deeper on the idea of Dominican identity, this call to action reflects a desire to preserve and strengthen Dominican identity in the face of external economic pressures. The tariffs, seen as a violation of the CAFTA-DR and the WTO rules, have sparked criticism from groups like the Workers' Socialist Movement, MST, which condemned the Dominican government's perceived servility, quote unquote, to U.S. policies. This tension highlights a struggle to balance economic dependence on the U.S. with assertions of sovereignty and national pride. The Dominican Republic's identity is also shaped by its diaspora, particularly in the U.S., where 1.1 million Dominican immigrants live, primarily in the New York City area. Remittances from this community are a major source of foreign currency, but a potential U.S. recession and reduced demand for Dominican exports could decrease these inflows, impacting families and communities. This economic strain could challenge the narrative of the Dominican Republic as a resilient, pro-business nation, as articulated by Rodriguez. Instead, it may fuel debates about economic sovereignty and the need for diversification away from U.S. dependence. Well, it's a conversation that probably needs to happen, but good luck with that. And then I am always interested in the impact. There's Bob Barker. ¿Dónde está Bob Barker? Where is this Bob Barker? Where's Bob Barker? Where's Shaggy? We get a little bombastic for your dining and dancing pleasure? A new version of it, maybe? I don't know. Not a huge Shaggy fan, but I don't mind this song at all. But always interested in the snowbird impact. How's this going to affect my clients, friends, family, thinking about moving to the Dominican Republic? Canadian and American snowbirds, retirees, or seasonal visitors who spend winters in a warmer climate have long been drawn to the Dominican Republic for its affordability, tropical climate, and proximity to North America. However, the new U.S. tariffs and related trade tensions could influence their relocation motivations and economic contributions to the Dominican Republic. The Canadian snowbirds. The U.S. tariffs on Canada, 35%, and the resulting trade war have strained U.S.-Canada relations, prompting some Canadian snowbirds to reconsider their traditional winter destinations in the U.S., such as Florida and Arizona. Hey, they're not even going to Buffalo Sabres games, and I would imagine Buffalo Bills games the way they used to. Wow. Really? You're that bent? What? I don't want to be your friend. Shut up. Beavis. I don't want to be your friend. A 20.2% drop in Canadian travel to the U.S. in March 2025. Wow. 1 in 5 people are not traveling to the States anymore. Coupled with an anti-Canadian sentiment and stricter immigration policy, has driven some to explore alternatives like Mexico and the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic's competitive tourism sector, bolstered by its strategic location and connectivity, makes it an attraction option. However, the U.S. tariffs on Dominican goods could indirectly affect Canadian snowbirds by increasing the cost of living in the Dominican Republic. Higher input costs for goods and potential disruptions in supply chains could raise prices for accommodations, food, and services, reducing the country's affordability compared to Mexico, where a depreciated peso, potentially by 10% due to U.S. tariffs, could make it a more cost-effective destination. I think not. We'll see how this all plays out. But I don't think that Mexico, Colombia, Panama, and Costa Rica are going to be more attractive than the Dominican Republic, especially from the standpoint that people that want to get out permanently, that want to move out of their country, you don't have to keep leaving the country of Dominican Republic because your visa expires. There's my boy Flip, my boy. I barely know the guy, but he's a legend. Always give him a shout out. This is a cool spot at Flip Flops. This is what do we call this place? Jeez, when the red light's on, you can't think of anything. I should know the bar's name. Yeah, I'm brain dead. See, this is how my show goes all the time, from one distraction to another. Oh, leaving the country. You don't have to leave the country when your 180-day visa expires. In Colombia, in Mexico, well, Mexico's a whole different. There's a war on Americans, on the gringo. And I wore my green go shirt today. That's where the word comes from. Green go, like military go. That's where gringo comes from, I think. Yeah, in Colombia, Costa Rica, Mexico, where there's, like I said, a war going on against the gringos, they're actually targeting and murdering and shutting down businesses and fire. Like, Mexico's crazy right now. Who wants to deal with that? But yeah, if you overstay your visa in any of those countries, when you get picked up, you get deported, and then you can't come back. In the Dominican Republic, if you overstay your visa and you get picked up, there's no deportation. You pay a fee when you leave, and then the overstay fee, you can come right back the next day. So I've been here 4 years. When I leave, I'm going to have to pay $400 or $500 in an exit fee. Doesn't matter where I go. But then I can come right back. I'm not blocked from entering the country like you would be in the other countries. So if you're considering permanently relocating, then those locations to me are absolutely out. So I think that the Dominican Republic still holds some huge advantages as compared to some of the quote-unquote competition as far as where Canadians and U.S. snowbirds might want to put their money, especially if they're going to be staying for long term. Canadian snowbirds are also motivated by safety and cultural familiarity, and the Dominican Republic's reputation as a stable pro-business destination with a vibrant expat community could also appeal to those type of, for lack of a better term, it's going to be investors, and they're going to be tourists and possible residents. Negative perceptions of U.S. policies, including Trump's threats to annex Canada as the 51st state, may amplify patriotic sentiment among Canadians, encouraging them to avoid U.S.-aligned destinations like the Dominican. Oh, shit. I don't think so. I think they see us independently from... Anyway. Don't take anything that I'm saying in these episodes as truth and gospel as I come up on 24 minutes of maybe too much information. I don't know. I mean, I need content for the show. I need content for the page. I need to be in front of you all the time. I want to kind of bring interesting topics, if it's possible, to you. So, I'm providing a service. Hi, I'm on the other side now. But sometimes it's not always possible. And sometimes when I come on here and talk about it, I produce it and I'm like, boring, no one cares, you're a loser, as I sweat all over myself. Okay, I gotta get out of here. American snowbirds may find the Dominican Republic increasingly appealing due to its proximity and lower costs compared to the U.S. destinations like Florida, where tourism is suffering from reduced Canadian visitors. The Dominican Republic's free zones and nearshoring potential could attract U.S. businesses, creating economic opportunities and enhance the country's appeal for retirees seeking vibrant communities. Broader implications. The Dominican Republic tourism sector, a major economic driver, could face challenges if the tariffs reduce a U.S. This is all perceived bad news. I see it as a huge opportunity, and I'm seeing it in the numbers. We're having more Canadians and Americans sniffing around here for long-term rentals. This is probably the most active off-season I've experienced in it would be 4 years in October here, as far as real estate goes, both for booking rentals on Airbnb and real estate inquiries. This off-season has been like no other for me. So is it an indication of things to come? Well, it certainly was an indication of things to come 3 years ago, when we saw year by year people were kind of hanging on to their money a little bit more. Tourism numbers are up, but business seems to be down. Well, prices leveled out, demand leveled out. I'm talking in real estate sales, and I'm only one guy, right? So I have a very limited perception of the market, but I still can compare my numbers to when I first came down here, both real estate values, watching them kind of level out rather than a steep incline that we've been on for decades down here, and interest kind of level out. And then, we had a couple of elections, national elections, both in Canada and the United States, to get behind us. Now that that's done, and we seem to have stable governments in both countries, we see a little bit more pickup in interest and in sales, number of transactions, and inquiries, like serious inquiries. And I did a previous show 2 days ago. 100,000 people left Canada last year permanently. That's the highest number since 1967. So there is a trend, and it seems like the trend is for people like you saying, you know what, I've had enough. I don't want to winter down in here anymore, or I've had enough. I can remotely work, get paid in my country, and live in another one. Times are changing. Anyways, that's, I guess, what we're going to call part 3 of the potential impacts on Donald J. Trump, the 47th President of the United States of America, and this particular local article with many local sources of opinions in this article, which I will include in the description of the show if I ever upload this. Peace, love, hug your neighbor, and I am out.